Okie dokie. Already settled? Okay. So as you maybe already have recognized, in the first sessions we're always going to focus more on the stabilizing meditation. On the second session we're always going to focus a little bit more on the analytical meditations, because there are two main types of meditations. And I just recognized he's a complete new person who's learned about meditation the first time. So this is why I'm gonna, especially since I know, I'm gonna repeat certain things, and also how do you say, want to allow the space, because this is what I said in the first session. For me, it's very important that we all have a very nice atmosphere of, we're here together, we're supportive, comparison is a dead end, opposite to our working system, where we compare all the time. Here, comparison is a dead end. No need to do that. We are all here to have a very individual process, a very personal process. So therefore, all questions are welcome. There are no mistakes, and even there are mistakes, they are good, because from mistakes we learn the most. So feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. And I ask your patience if there are certain things that we want to repeat again. Then maybe also as a reminder for all of us, last time we talked about the definitions of love and compassion in Buddhist terminology. So we already spoke about, it's not necessarily romantic love, how we maybe think what love is. Should I help you with this? Okay. But it is more relating to an aspiration. Right, let's do it. Okay, thank you. So does anybody remember what's the aspiration that is love?
Wanting people to be happy?
Wanting people to be happy, right. And what's the compassion?
Wanting people not to suffer.
Wanting people not to suffer. So here it's not so much about, and I really like that, and I think I said it already last time, but I'm not sure. What we have often in relationships, not only romantic relationships, but all kind of relationships, we have the thought, I want you in my life to make me happy. But here we're exchanging that with, I want you to be happy. So that's a different thing. So that's basically the difference between loving kindness and attachment. And Sylvia Wetzel, she's somebody who's studied Buddhist philosophy quite a lot, and an amazing woman. And she brought up like 4 main differences between attachment and love. And one of the first one is love comes from the feeling of an inner wealth, comes from the feeling of, I have something to offer. Why? Because the thought behind it is, I want you to be happy. So therefore love, and there we can actually distinguish, am I having a needy mind, a mind, I want you to do something for me? Or do we have a generous mind? I'm having an inner wealth, and I want to share happiness with you. So that's the first big difference. Then actually I want to talk about that in the end. But do you want to hear the 4 now or at the end?
No. Is that also the difference between love, Buddhist love, and romantic love, or no?
Well, no. Romantic love does not necessarily have to be attachment. Romantic love can have love. Romantic love most probably has a lot of attachment, but there's no pervasion. Romantic love is not equal to attachment, and if it were, that would be tragic, because then there wouldn't be healthy relationships. And we have a very beautiful just white in front of us, right? So
don't judge us how that looks. Totally. But we recognize it.
But you also have a lot of love, and this I can see, definitely. So a lot of relationships have a lot of attachment in it. And again, attachment, and this I especially want to say who have not been familiarized to the word attachment, how we use it in Buddhist terminology, because attachment for a lot of people is connotated as something very, very good and very positive. And even in Western psychology, sometimes we use the word attachment like the bond between a mother and a child. That is a very good kind of attachment. Here we're meaning a mind that is attracted to an object and then wants to do everything in order to have it and to possess it and to hold on to it. And it also comes with a wrong kind of understanding towards the object, thinking, projecting onto the object that this is going to make me happy, and then wanting it. Whereas love is the opposite. Love is, I am having something to offer, I want you to be happy. And romantic love then is a mixture of all kind of different emotions, and that everybody has to figure out that for themselves. I don't know. So the first thing, the difference between love and attachment is love is coming from the state of inner wealth. I have something to offer. And attachment is, on the other hand, arising from a sense of I have a lack. I have a lack and I need something to fill this lack up. So that is a needy kind of state. So we're projecting, actually when we have attachment, we see something, we project those qualities and those things that we don't have on the other, so that once we have it, we think we're gonna be happy. For example, I feel so alone and I'm so sad, therefore I project the sense that you're gonna always be there for me, you're always gonna do exactly what I need, and therefore I need you to be by my side. So it's not about you at all. There's no love from the Buddhist point of view. Then based on that, if you have this loving sense, the second thing is based on that, you have a very realistic approach to whatever you meet. You know it's going to end. You know it's impermanent. You know the person, if it is a person, is going to change. You see also the faults. You see if it is a person, this person is just human. So I'm not expecting this person to be perfect. And also with respect to objects, this new house that I built, let's say. This new house that I built, it's gonna give me shelter and wealth, and I'm gonna, this gonna give me so much pleasure. And once you have it, you have so much work and you're so frustrated and it's just too overwhelming, as an example. So with attachment, on the other hand, we, as I said earlier, we look at the person, let's say it's the person, and we project all those beautiful qualities and just disregard everything else. So actually we don't see a person, we project onto them a picture that we draw ourselves of what we need the other person to be, or the object to be, but let's keep it with the person. And then we have a completely unrealistic picture of the person, of the situation, of the object. It can also be situations. Once I'm going to be retired. I think it's quite far from all of us, but especially for me, since again, I'm the youngest here, but so, once I'm going to, and I know people, because my father, he has now 2.5 more years to work. And so all his friends, they're all in this area, and they project this idea of once I'm retired, that's a situation that we project it's going to be perfect, I'm going to be this and that and that. We can make lists of how things then going to be. So we project that future. It's completely unrealistic, because we're going to have pain, we're going to have different situations. Life just continues and life just goes up and down and up and down. We all know that. So that is an unrealistic picture. Deriving from that, the third thing, what attachment does then, is that the affection, let's say it is with respect to a person, is going to drastically diminish once we have the object or once we have the person. Why? Because it's not that actually we think, we're together with a person, finally we have this love, how do you call it, this rosy glasses on, and we think it's going to be perfect, I finally have them, it's amazing for 2 months. And then suddenly, this person doesn't wash their socks and they always put it onto my bed. They don't brush their teeth enough. I don't know why I always use the toothbrushing. Yeah, but you know all these kind of things, or I don't know, suddenly they don't do this enough, they don't do that enough, so affection drastically goes down, and after, you know, staying together maybe for another 2 months, fighting, and then you break up because your projection in the first place was wrong. So it's not that actually the person becomes more terrible, it's more that the picture that you've drawn in the first place is crumbling, and that the person that was there all the time is coming more to the front. So how sad. We have actually, not only from our own side, but how sad and actually unfair towards the other person also, because we don't know what they're actually feeling towards us. Maybe they're super gentle, nice people, and then we projected something that is impossible to attain. It's impossible to attain our own needs, our entirety of our own needs. To find Mrs. and Mr. Perfect, impossible. So Mrs. or Mr. Okay is good enough. This is what Mingyur Rinpoche says. If you find somebody who's Mr. Okay or Mrs. Okay or something else okay, good enough. And then you by you actually nurturing that allows more space for you to continue wishing them to be happy, nurturing that, then quite naturally you're going to be supportive. But if you have that projection onto them, they're never going to be able to reach. They stay same as before, and then once you're together, you suddenly say, I don't want you anymore, because your picture is crumbling. So that is wrong. And then the fourth main difference, and I think that is something very important, the overall feeling that we have with love is a good one, because it's giving, it is open, it doesn't lead to pain. Love doesn't really lead to heartbreaks. It's the attachment that leads to heartbreaks. That's not entirely true. I'm going to give a quick example later why also love is okay sometimes that we feel pain. But attachment, on the other hand, is always having like a tight thing. It's always like it's a little bit tight. It's tight, and the overall feeling below is more like a suffering one. So keep those four things in mind in both sides when you interact with people, and also when you see objects. You can see, you know, we also, as I said last time, our idea of I love, we say sometimes I love ice cream, right? No, we have attachment towards ice cream. And sometimes we can also eat ice cream and have preference for ice cream. That doesn't need to be strong attachment. It's fine to have ice cream. The thing that I wanted to say with love, there's a story, I don't know if it was, who was it? Maybe you know it because you know the story so well. I don't know if it was actually Nagarjuna. Oh no, wasn't it Marpa? When Marpa lost his son, that he cried, or was it somebody else? There was some great, I don't know, I will check it up and tell you next week. There was a great Lama who was said to have this and that attainments, and then I think his son died, and that person cried, you know, even though they were so we can, because we know we want a person to be happy. So when something very terrible happens to us, it's fine to be sad, but and to allow that space for sadness to be there, and to also have compassion. But then we are able with love, because we want people to be happy, and it's an active force. It's a force that drives you. It's not a force that makes you like, you know, sometimes we have this idea of love and we sit there in this bubble. Oh, you know, some people feel like Buddhism might be something very inactive, and you sit there and, you know, meditate all day. It's actually something very active and driving. It drives you to do good for the world. So similarly here, because it is so driving, even though sadness is allowed, it's not going to bring you into a mood where you become inactive. It's going to continue driving you. So these are the four differences that I actually wanted to talk in the end about. But anyway, so coming back to the beginning, we have two main things why we are here. And one is coming at the root of love, and one is at the root of compassion, which is I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. And we have that 24 hours every day. And therefore we have the seed of love and compassion 24 hours every day. But just having, and as you said, well, just having the wish to be happy does mean I have love? On one hand, yes. But then if I ask you, in the great scriptures they say, even Shantideva in one of his quotes says, just having one moment of compassion is way more virtuous and powerful than giving offerings to, I don't know, all the grains of the river of the Ganges, offering to all the Buddhas in the entire universe, or something like that. Again, paraphrasing me, I don't know. So if we say love and compassion are there all the time, why aren't we feeling better? Why if it is so, if
It's clouded.
Huh?
It's covered by conflicting emotions.
Right.
Well,
Right.
in theory. Yes.
Yeah, right.
We may not feel it, like we may
Absolutely.
not actually have a real experience of it, but
Yeah, exactly that. So we have love and compassion there all the time, but we don't see it because it's covered up, and then we follow those destructive emotions. And Shantideva says, and I like to quote that because I think it's something very beautiful for us to generate compassion and loving kindness towards others, but also to have a more gentle approach with ourselves. He says, although wishing to be rid of misery, they run towards it itself, they run towards misery itself, like that. And although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, ignorantly they destroy it. So that actually shows there is loving compassion, but we are really unskillful. We run into things, and that's something that I would like you to do in your week. Please check for yourself. What are your go-tos? What are when you recognize I need something, I want something, what is it that you run after? What is your misery that you run towards? What are your things that you're running towards in your day-to-day life? Eating. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
stress eating.
Yeah. Opening the fridge, right? I need something. So that's something. Does anybody else know things like you could immediately throw in? Yeah, for me it's eating.
Yeah,
Eating also. Yeah. Does anybody smoke?
No.
Not anymore.
Amazing. But check. Often it's not just eating. I think we have more.
Go for a run.
Huh? Go for a run.
Yeah.
Just distraction.
Cup of coffee. Call up your friends
Uh-huh.
and complain about everything. Watch something on Netflix.
Watch something on Netflix. Yeah, distraction, right? Yeah. You too. Do you know something? What's your go-to when you actually want happiness and you say, oh, when you don't want, when you want happiness and you do something, but it doesn't really give you happiness? Or do you know something that comes up into your mind? Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So please check in your week.
Like Laksam's post.
Very
Use it for something good. Or play a donation.
clever, Nina. Best.
That was a moment of commercial.
Yeah. So please, during the week, like Laksam, and check for yourself. What are the things when you actually run into misery because actually you're searching happiness? And also the other side, in your day, what are the things? What are the moments where you actually destroy the pieces of happiness that you have? Like when you want to meditate, but then you don't do it, or when you actually want to sleep enough, but you don't sleep enough because you search on Facebook search on Google things and scroll through Facebook and these kind of things. So shopping, right? Like please search for these things. Make a list, because I don't know. I'm a super. For me, writing really, really helps. So then I have these things and I can have it quite visually in front of me. And writing is quite an interesting process. What happens then with our minds? We actually have to see and have to face very visually what our enemies are. But then we don't want to, judge ourselves for having these things. We want to give ourselves a hug, embrace it, use it. And we're going to learn how to, this I told him later, not next week, but the week after. And the week after, we're going to learn how to work with our thoughts when in meditation, but also out of meditation, in terms of stabilizing meditation, and also strong emotions, how to actually use even emotions as a support for stabilizing meditation. So our mind doesn't have to be all calm to be stabilized. Our mind can go up and down, and still there can be stabilizing meditation. So, and then also here we have those 3 levels of view, meditation, and application. So also here now we learn the view. Okay, we know intellectually we want to be happy and others want to be happy. We know a little bit how the meditation works, and when you're going to do another love meditation and joyous effort meditation. But how do we behave in our day-to-day lives? How are you actually, even though you understand that you want to be happy and that you understand that everybody has exactly the same wish, us just in this room, you can see, everybody says, yes, I want to be happy. Everybody that you meet is going to have exactly the same wish. Are we responding to that wish? And when I asked you last time, I also gave you another challenge for you. Does anybody remember what was the other challenge? That's maybe the first thing. No cheating. I'm joking. I cheated so much that's my karma.
It's my brain, right?
I wrote it down.
That's true.
We had why is love pure nature and not suffering?
Yeah, that's gonna come.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had the challenge about when we see other people.
Yes,
about the
yes,
love and the
yes,
suffering
yes, yes. Did anybody of you mention? So the challenge was 3 people that you meet during the day have as the first labeling thought, may you be happy. Did anybody of you manage to do it? Yes?
I mean, before, not now.
Yeah,
I had this
yeah.
practice, and I think it's very uplifting.
Yeah, it's so uplifting.
You are high.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why you go to the office. And,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Did anybody of you manage once? Yes. How was your? Did you ever manage? That's actually something really, really good. I once had to have a very difficult. Every now and then I have very difficult conversation with people, and if I know I'm going to have a difficult situation with the person, the first thing I'm going to do is when I meet them, and you know this very awkward situation when you are at a street and you come closer and closer, and you don't want to look and stare at them all the time, but you also don't want to look strangely away. Do you know what I mean? You know, there are these kind of situations. So in this moment, when I walk towards them, and I know, oh, I'm going to have this conversation now, then I think, may you be happy, may you be happy, may you be happy. And it changes completely the way that you work, or that you deal with the person. So try that out, and just take it with you again as an exercise, and try again to see if you manage that and how that changes, and then observe really how that changes the way that you interact with the people that you meet. So that is the exercise in order to have the third one, the application. Sorry, Christine and Marisol and Nicholas, did you have actually any questions before? I didn't really. No? Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Because I think in every therapy, when we start asking ourselves what our go-to strategies are and things like this, I think there's no. I mean, it's very nice to think, be kind to yourself and whatever, but I think I personally judge myself.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
And second thing, I think also is that then the thought arises, okay, you know, this doesn't work, never worked for me before, and then you want to stop doing it. Typically, like you know, the thought arises, I'd like to maybe try something else. So, how to deal with this, like, I don't know, the feeling of, I don't know, fear. I don't want to say fear, but somehow this uneasiness. Okay, if I cannot have my coffee or whatever, my life is going to fall apart. I'm now exaggerating a little bit, but there is this kind of feeling of, because there are those kind of things we go for refuge to, let's say, or go for comfort, and then there is certain level of panic feeling of, if I don't have that, then what am I gonna do? Like, my life is gonna be horrible.
I see what you're saying.
Of course, right? So how to deal with that?
I'm gonna respond to that the moment after you have said also before the thing of judgment. I think one of the things that helps me personally with judgment is, and I think most of us are the most judgmental towards ourselves. So there are different things that we can do. The first thing that I really like is first of all, we need to understand that we already have a negative emotion, or we already did something that is harmful. So when we then also add a judgment, when we are multiplying our suffering. So that mere recognition of that already allows, at least for me sometimes, to ease that judgmental point, because I recognize I already have suffering. I don't need to multiply that. But that has to do with how much do you love and care for yourself. So if that is very, very difficult for you to let go of judgment, I think it's super important to work in your meditation sessions more on compassion and seeing yourself as a child. That is what I sometimes do. Like, if I would be a child, if I would be my own child, how would I react if I say, I'm having again those thoughts, I'm again following them, I'm again not able to manage that? And just before I came here, I had this talk with my friend for 2 hours who said exactly what you said about the judgmental part, saying, I do the thing, I know this, I have this habit already since 2 years, let's say. I again and again find myself in the same thing, and then I judge myself so badly for it. And she always uses the word, I'm so annoyed by myself. So that shows this judgment. So, but then we actually multiplied the suffering. We have suffering already. We add another suffering, which is the aversion towards what we have. So the first thing there we need to do is acceptance. So the big key word here is acceptance of what is. That's the first thing. The second thing is no need to stop everything. And especially no need, if you really, really need something at the moment, it's okay to have it. And then when you have moments of stability, try to experiment. Not at the moments where you are very vulnerable. When you usually need your coffee every morning, let's take this as an example, you know that you have attachment to your coffee every morning. It doesn't mean that you have to cut off the coffee in the mornings when you're in a bad mood. But let's say you're on holiday one day, hopefully again. So let's say you say, okay, that's a topic for me. I write it down. That's something that I want to work with. I have attachment towards this coffee. Then at the moment where you do have some more calmness situation in your own mind, let's say in a holiday, experiment. Say, okay, 5 days a week. And that's something I think for me very helpful to say, I don't have to change it in a day. Let's say, okay, 6 days a week I can drink coffee. So tomorrow I'm allowed to drink coffee again. Today it's holiday. Let's try. Let's try to see how would I feel if I don't drink the coffee. So I think we need to be gentle with that. And that's another thing. Attachment and not having attachment, or having the so-called word renunciation, trying to generate that, which is a thought that you're not searching for happiness in external objects anymore, doesn't mean you're not allowed to use them. And I had moments in my life, and especially when I started practicing a lot, where I tried to actually remove myself more and more from objects of pleasure, which can be helpful, but it doesn't have to be. And that can also become another attachment. I'm the saint. So having the object at the moment and using them, and not being able to let go of them. If you're really not able to let go of them, then at the moment you're not able to do it. If you can experiment, and if you recognize, well, if I'm not doing it, I'm going to be a more nasty person, what's the benefit? So, and then rather working in the meditations with it, imagine, I also make now the bigger, imagining to give the coffee to somebody else. How would that be if the other person would have I want this coffee. Yeah, this other person shouldn't drink the coffee. And then you try, and maybe one day you're going to be able to offer another person your coffee. As an example. But does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is something very important, that we don't push away things that we need at the moment, or our comfort. We are very, very fortunate that we have so much comfort. And I think Kadrula once was very, very, I don't know for people who don't know her, but I once had a conversation with Kadrula, and I was like, I want to do this, I told her, I want to ordain, and I don't need this comfort and stuff like this. And she looked at me and like really, like as if I'm stupid, told me, like she didn't say actually, are you stupid? But that was what I got the message, like, are you stupid? we don't have to be the yogis who give away all our comfort. If we have that, use it. That's the thing. Use the comfort that you have, use the things that you have, and if you recognize you have attachment to things, then work with that. But if you run away from the objects of your attachment, you're not dealing with the attachment itself. So, although, on the other hand, in the Abhidhamma Kosha, it's explained that one of the things that triggers our attachment is the object itself. So if you have the object in front of yourself, and it is too big, sometimes it's okay to remove yourself. Sometimes it is okay if you cannot deal with it. But if at the moment you cannot deal with being removed by that, from that object, then you have to find a way to slowly, and I really mean it slowly, can be over 6 years, can be over 2 years, and not underestimate the seconds where you managed, the little moments where you managed. Because by you celebrating them, and I'm sometimes every now and then I have a meeting with 2 other Dhamma friends of mine, and we tell each other the good things that we did, and then we celebrate like this. And sometimes, because we are not together, so we have to do it also via Zoom. So that's one of the big way to celebrate, and it feels so like childish. But sometimes when I'm at home in the evening, and I look at what I did, and I feel low, I look at the things that I did well, and just do this, and say amazing. And these little appreciations is going to give us all the strength that we need to eventually reach there. Because, and that is now coming to what you said, the question that I gave you to think about, everything that is leading us closer and closer to the realization of the understanding of reality, everything that is more and more in line with reality is going to bring us more and more to happiness. Everything that is turning us away from understanding how things really exist is gonna bring us more and more away from happiness and closer to suffering. So here, by you even putting just a drop of more detachment towards your object, even if it's just a drop, and you celebrating that fact, it brings you closer to, or it is more in line with reality. So that actually leads to you ultimately finding happiness. So then, coming to the question that I asked last time in the group, what is it, or why is it, why do you think is it that love and compassion are more in line, and that also is for the onliners, why do you think that love and compassion is more in line with reality than attachment and hatred or anger? Throw, it doesn't have to be ultimate, all these kind of things. Just think about something. And if, okay, the question is, why do you think that loving kindness and compassion, meaning I wish you to be happy, I wish you to be free from suffering, why are they more in line with reality than attachment and aversion?
With absolute reality or conventional reality?
Go for whatever you think is most.
They're more in line with absolute reality because their love and compassion is a non-dualistic type of thought view.
I wish, but if I see you, I still have really much duality.
But no, I mean, if you love someone, you tend to feel one with that person.
Beautiful.
So non-duality. Same thing with compassion. This feeling of non-duality, which is in line with absolute reality. Whereas anger and these are emotions that are very dualistic. You, I'm angry against you, and that's more in line with that's not in line with absolute reality,
Beautiful.
which is non-dualistic.
Thank you. Very beautiful.
Conventionally, I also saw one report. Well, it was a TV report. It was like a German sociologist or psychologist. He said that, well, he did the research saying that in reality, people are kinder than we thought.
Yes, there's
Like
a really
when they
great
see
documentary on that. Yeah.
People actually suffer, everyone else wanted to help.
Yeah.
So there was actually a proof that we are in nature, in essence, more kind than we thought, because we got too much news from media.
Well, it seems to be happening by nature.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't even a Buddhist program.
Yeah.
Just like a
I think it's called this,
regular-
in German it's called Die Revolution der Selbstlosigkeit, which is a documentary by Arte. Maybe it's something similar, maybe it's not the same, but this is something that also a documentary, which is really, really good to see. It. You find it on the Mediatek, I don't know, yeah. And it, you have.
Yes, also because
Thank
there
you.
was also a kind of a research or something that the babies are
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
compassionate before they talk, and
Yeah.
just with the emotions are absolutely compassionate, and
Yeah.
they have love, and the anger it comes later.
Yeah. So beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also throw in an experiential kind of thing that it really simply feels better to be in a loving and compassionate mood than to be angry
Yeah.
and to have aversion towards something. I think we all know it, that
Yeah.
how we both feel, and
Yeah.
I think that if we had the choice, we would all prefer to be on the loving and
Yeah.
compassionate side all the time.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your sharings. Did you have something?
No, I
Okay.
really struggled with it this week, so
Yeah.
that was good to hear the other good
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the reason why I asked this is because we need to be convinced in order to, because generating loving kindness and compassion, it's very difficult sometimes to recognize. Oh, sorry. Christine, Marisol, and Nicholas, do you have things to say on that? I think Christine is trying to unmute.
I'm so looking forward to the answer because I just couldn't figure it out.
Ah, that's the same what Jeff said. He also was thinking about that all the time. Well, it's good. It's good that you have that doubt, and it's good to continue thinking about that. Were you able to hear the others?
More or less.
More or less.
More or less.
Well, there's no perfect answer that I'm gonna give. It's definitely worthwhile to continue thinking about that. On an ultimate level, or not, actually not ultimate level, but let's say, let's keep, if we look at reality, we as human beings are so dependent on others, and dependence and interdependence, or dependent arising, is a really, really big thing in Buddhism. Because usually when we have attachment and when we have hatred, we see things usually as very much independent from us and either wanting to harm us, or thinking, as I said earlier, with the wrong idea of attachment, projecting an unrealistic picture on another person, wanting to have it, wanting to possess it, and it's never going to be able to fulfill us. So attachment and anger always have a sense of mistaken understanding behind it. Anger has the mistaken understanding behind it that the external object over there is going to harm me. So as you said, there's this dualism, but apart from the dualism, we not only have dualism, we also think that there is actually an enemy outside. So we forget that the emotion that happens in our own minds, so that we completely disregard. We say this person is causing me to suffer, whereas the suffering exists within our own minds. So that's just based on a very mistaken understanding on how things exist. Similarly, with attachment, as I said earlier, we project a very mistaken picture outside to the external person, or with respect to objects or situations, and we think that outside there is going to be the happiness that we so seek. So these are the mistaken things. Whereas with love and compassion, everybody wants to be happy. So wishing other people to be happy is really much in line with reality. On a very, very basic level, we don't have to go super philosophical. Then second thing, we are super dependent on others. We ourselves, the reason why we are alive, are because we receive so much kindness, and every day we receive kindness from people. We receive the kindness of the cushion. I really love when I sit on the cushion to reflect on how many people have been involved for that cushion to be here. It's uncountable, unimaginable how many what a chain of causes had to come together for me to sit here comfortably on this cushion. So now thinking, that is a chain of kindness around me, everywhere around me. So now giving that back, seeing that, and wanting everyone to be happy because we are so connected makes complete sense. The second thing, compassion. Well, everybody wants to be happy, but as Shantideva says, we know ourselves that even though we want to be happy, we run into misery, and we see other people doing the same. And yeah, right, as I said, this week was full of people telling me the horrible sufferings that exist within their minds. And then wouldn't it be the most reasonable thing to reflect on, well, everybody wants happiness, everybody suffers. And then it comes back, if you've received a teaching on the Four Noble Truths, then we come back to the Four Noble Truths. Suffering exists, know the suffering, origination, abandon, overcome the origination, cessation, achieve cessation, which are all included in the love and compassion. And then the last one, the path leading to that cessation. So there we have those four existing within those two wishes of love and compassion when we recognize the connection. So when we have compassion, then we look at others, we recognize, is suffering possible to overcome? That's the job that we have to do. That's the questions that we have to do. Is it possible to overcome suffering? And the Buddhist suggestion is, yes, it is possible. Because, that's now a whole big story, but because the reason that we suffer is based on a misconception. And a misconception is nothing but a childish thought. So even though it's very deeply ingrained in us, and even though we have many, many wrong ideas of how things exist, once we investigate how things really exist, and this is really not where I thought this talk was going to go to, but if we really investigate on how things exist, we come to an understanding, well, if I understand how, if the reason why I'm suffering is because of certain kind of misunderstandings, then by not having a misunderstanding anymore, I'm not going to have suffering anymore. So simple in theory. So that's one way of looking why love and compassion are way more in line with reality than attachment and anger. Anything else that you want to add to that? She does this. No. Okay. Wow, it's 1 to 9. So either we stop and do dedication, or we do another, I would say, 5 minutes, not longer than that, maximum 7 minutes meditation on loving kindness. What would you like? If you're tired, please be completely honest and free. We've already done a meditation last week, so you can just continue doing the same as last time. I also, by the way, finished the file that I wanted to send out with the kind of summarized key points of the first 2 sessions. So I'm going to give it to you, and you can just send it out.
And the ones online on Zoom, I know Christine. Who else?
Christine, and it's Marisol. I'm so sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly. And Nicolas.
Okay, if Nicolas and Marisol could just register,
yeah,
and then I will get your email.
So if you also want to have a summary like Nicolas and Marisol, if you also want to have like a summary of like the key points of the first 2 sessions, please register online or write a mail to Laksam, and then they can also forward you the material. So back to the question, who wants to still meditate? Who wants to sleep?
Some people need to catch trains.
Yes, then let's keep it here. Do a dedication. And for those who have no idea what dedication is all about, it's in order for us not to cling onto all the positivity that we have, but actually connect it with love and compassion, putting it outside to the world, and giving this as a gift to the world. And also, as I said in the beginning, motivation is extremely important. This is what shows us what direction we're going to go to. And if you have to leave, you can just leave. Motivation is that which drives us. Then we have the action. The motivation is that which drives us and gives a direction. Then we have the action that we do, and we try to have the motivation with that. And then the dedication is making sure that everything that we have done with that motivation is still directed to that goal that we have set up in the beginning. For example, wanting to benefit others, wanting others to be happy, wanting to use our lives to be of benefit for others and for ourselves as well. So in order to ensure that this is what we're doing, I would like to make a dedication with you, and we can go to page 130. Bye, thank you so much. And we're gonna do the 1 and 2 this time, if that is fine for you. And I'm gonna chant them in Tibetan, but if you don't know the meaning, just read it, because the most important is the meaning. So do it the way that it moves you to actually understand the meaning behind it. Chancho sancho grimboche ma ke panam ke gyuchi ke panyam pame payam gong ne gong du perwarsho. And then take a moment to find your own personal dedication. What do you want to take from this day, and where do you want it to lead you? And then you have, if you have particular people who are suffering at the moment, or particular wish, you can also think about that. And then, since this weekend is like a global climate, people meeting on the streets, we can maybe think even more about how we wish that this world's gonna sustain in a very long and healthy way, so that we can live here on this world peacefully together, and that all the people suffering right now from fear or from health issues because of corona or financial issues, that all of them are going to be cured from their fears, cured from their suffering and misery. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And see you again. Thank you.